Good evening, everyone. Tonight I want to talk about something that we often overlook in our noisy, busy world. It's something that has the power to unlock everything we're searching for, and it's something we're all too often afraid to embrace. I want to talk about the power of silence. Silence isn't simply the absence of sound. It's not just about closing your mouth or stepping away from the noise. It's about creating a space where you can truly hear yourself. In a world that's constantly buzzing with distractions, expectations, and demands, silence becomes a tool for clarity. When everything around us is in motion, when our minds are racing, when people are pulling us in different directions, silence offers us a moment to ground ourselves, to reconnect with what's truly important. In silence, you discover a deeper sense of peace. It's in these quiet moments that we can hear our own thoughts, separate from the noise of the world. We can hear the truth about what we need, what we desire, and what's been on our hearts all along. But we often overlook it because we're so used to running, to being busy, to filling every second with action. But real growth, real understanding, and real direction don't come from constantly doing. They come from stopping. When you choose silence, you choose stillness. And stillness has a power that action can't replicate. It's in that quiet space that you can finally hear the whispers of your soul, the promptings of your spirit, the things that truly matter. This isn't passive. This isn't empty. It's active listening to the deepest parts of who you are, to the wisdom that is already within you. And in that place of silence, you connect with something greater than yourself. It's in that silence that we can tune into divine guidance, clarity, and the voice of wisdom that often gets drowned out by the noise of the world. True silence doesn't just shut out the external noise. It gives you the chance to quiet the noise inside your mind. The chatter, the doubts, the worries, all of it fades away when you allow yourself to simply be present. And in that presence, everything you need begins to make itself known. In that silence, you allow the answers to emerge. It's like a seed waiting to sprout, nurtured by the stillness, the peace, and the patience you give it. Timing is everything. It's easy to think that we have to force things, to push them into place, to make them happen on our schedule. We live in a world that prizes speed, that celebrates hustle, that tells us we're behind if we're not constantly on the move. But here's a truth we often forget. Not everything happens when we want it to. And that's perfectly okay. In fact, it's more than okay, it's necessary. We may want things right now. We may feel like we're running out of time, like we're missing out, or that the opportunities we've been waiting for are slipping away. But the truth is, when we force things, we end up creating more stress, more chaos, and more resistance in our lives. Trusting the timing means understanding that some things take time to come to fruition. Just because it hasn't happened yet doesn't mean it won't. And just because it's not happening on your timeline doesn't mean it's not the perfect time for it. Think about how many times we've looked back at our lives and realized that certain events, people, or opportunities showed up exactly when they were meant to, not a second sooner or later. The relationships, the breakthroughs, the growth, all of it came at just the right moment. The timing wasn't ours to control, and yet in hindsight, it couldn't have been better. Trusting the timing requires us to embrace the unknown, to let go of our need for control. It requires a surrendering of our sense of urgency and a willingness to wait with patience, knowing that what we need will arrive when the moment is right. And during that waiting period, we must resist the temptation to rush ahead, because it's in the stillness of waiting that the seeds of our future are being planted. It's in the quiet moments of uncertainty that we are being prepared for the next chapter, even if we can't yet see it. Trusting the timing also means acknowledging that we don't always see the full picture. We see the present, but we don't always have the ability to understand the intricate threads that weave together our lives. There are forces at work guiding us towards something greater. Maybe the timing isn't right because you're not ready yet, or because there's something you need to learn first. Trusting the timing means knowing that even when we don't understand, we can trust that there's a plan, and that plan is bigger than our immediate desires. So while we may feel pressure, frustration, or doubt when things don't seem to be happening as quickly as we want, trusting the timing is an act of faith. It's a belief that the universe, or whatever higher power you believe in, has a better sense of what we need than we do ourselves. And sometimes the best thing we can do is wait, knowing that what's coming for us is worth every second of the wait. We live in a world that thrives on pressure. Everywhere we turn, there's a rush to do more, be more, accomplish more, and get there faster. It feels like if we're not constantly moving, constantly achieving, then we're falling behind. The clock is always ticking. The stakes always seem higher, and we can't afford to waste time. But here's a thought. Maybe all this pressure is the very thing that's holding us back. Pressure often creates a false sense of urgency. It makes us believe that we need to do everything right now, as if there's no time to breathe, no space to think, no room for reflection. We feel as if we need to hit certain milestones at a specific age or stage in life, and if we don't, then somehow we've failed. This creates stress, anxiety, and a constant feeling of being overwhelmed. But the truth is, the weight of pressure can cloud our judgment and obscure the clarity we need to make the best decisions. It can drive us to act impulsively, to chase after things that aren't aligned with our true purpose, or to settle for less than what we deserve. What if, instead of letting pressure push us, we chose patience? Patience isn't about doing nothing. It's not about sitting idly by and waiting for life to happen. Patience is about trusting that there is a right time for everything. It's about understanding that rushing doesn't get us closer to our goals. It just burns us out faster. Patience allows us to stay grounded, to evaluate our options with a clear mind, and to take each step with intention rather than desperation. Patience is also a form of self-care. It's about choosing peace over chaos, calm over panic. When we allow ourselves to be patient, we give ourselves permission to pause, to breathe, and to recalibrate. It's about recognizing that we don't have to have all the answers right now. We don't have to know the entire journey, just the next step. And that's enough. Sometimes the greatest progress we make isn't in the big leaps we take, but in the small, steady steps we choose to take at the right pace. The pressure we face often comes from external sources, society's expectations, the opinions of others, or the voices that tell us we should be somewhere else, doing something else, achieving something else. But when we choose patience, we turn down the volume on those voices and start listening to something deeper. We start to trust our own rhythm, our own timeline, and our own inner wisdom. The pressure that once seemed so overwhelming becomes less significant in the face of our peace. Patience doesn't mean inaction. It's purposeful stillness. It's a choice to move with intention rather than rush through life without awareness. And when we practice patience, we give ourselves the opportunity to grow, to learn, and to align ourselves with what's truly meant for us, rather than what we think we should have right now. The pressure that once felt like a force pushing us forward begins to feel like a weight lifted off our shoulders. Patience teaches us that we are enough as we are, and that everything we need will unfold in its own perfect time. Control is something we all seek. We want to control our circumstances, our outcomes, our relationships, and sometimes even our emotions. We believe that if we can control every aspect of our lives, we can guarantee success, avoid failure, and prevent pain. It gives us a sense of security, a feeling that we have power over what happens next. But the more we try to control, the more we realize that life doesn't bend to our will, no matter how hard we try. Letting go of control doesn't mean giving up. It doesn't mean accepting defeat or letting life happen to you without any effort. It's about acknowledging that some things are beyond our grasp and trusting that it's okay to let go. We can only control so much. And when we reach the limits of our power, we must release the rest. The things that are out of our hands, the things we can't predict or manipulate, and the things we can't foresee. The truth is, we are often attached to outcomes, obsessed with timelines, and fixated on certain expectations. But the more we cling to these expectations, the more frustrated and disappointed we become when life doesn't follow our script. Letting go of control is about surrendering our need for certainty and learning to trust that what happens next is part of a bigger picture that we may not fully understand right now. It's about stepping into the unknown and having faith that we will be okay no matter what happens. One of the hardest parts of letting go of control is accepting uncertainty. We like to know what's coming, when it's coming, and how it's all going to unfold. Uncertainty makes us uncomfortable because it challenges our need for stability and safety. But in reality, it's in the unknown that the most powerful things are often revealed. When we let go of trying to control everything, we make room for the unexpected, for opportunities that we couldn't have planned for, and for blessings that would never have arrived if we stayed stuck in our own rigid expectations. Letting go of control also means releasing the fear of failure. So often we hold on to control because we fear the consequences of letting go, that something bad will happen or we'll end up disappointed. But when we let go, we stop trying to protect ourselves from the possibility of failure and allow ourselves to learn, grow, and evolve. We stop seeing failure as the end and start seeing it as part of the journey. In letting go of control, we free ourselves from the burden of perfectionism, and we open ourselves up to growth in ways we never imagined. This act of surrender doesn't mean we stop working hard, dreaming big, or setting goals. It simply means we stop trying to force outcomes and start trusting the process. We begin to recognize that there is a flow to life that cannot be dictated by our plans. It's a flow that's bigger than us, more expansive than our limited view, and filled with infinite possibilities. When we let go of control, we allow ourselves to be carried by that flow, trusting that we will end up where we're meant to be. Letting go of control is also about trusting the timing of life, knowing that everything will fall into place when the time is right. We don't have to push, force, or manipulate. We simply have to show up, do our part, and let the rest unfold naturally. When we stop trying to control the how and the when, we make room for the magic of life to happen in ways we could never have orchestrated ourselves. In a world that constantly moves forward, it's easy to forget the importance of pausing, of looking back, of taking a moment to reflect. We live in a time where the emphasis is on progress, on moving ahead, on achieving and accomplishing. But what if the key to moving forward more effectively lies not in rushing forward, but in looking back, in reflecting? Reflection is one of the most powerful tools we have for personal growth and understanding. It allows us to examine our past experiences, to learn from them, and to gain clarity about our present path. When we take the time to reflect, we create the space needed to process what has happened in our lives, to understand the lessons embedded within those experiences, and to align ourselves more deeply with who we truly are and what we are called to do. It's not about dwelling on the past or getting stuck in it. It's about extracting wisdom and insight from it to guide our future. One of the greatest benefits of reflection is that it helps us to develop a sense of self-awareness. We often move through life without fully understanding our motivations, our patterns of behavior, or the deeper reasons behind our decisions. Reflection forces us to slow down and pay attention to ourselves. It challenges us to ask, why did I react that way? What was I feeling in that moment? What could I have done differently? It's not about judging ourselves for past actions. It's about understanding why we made those choices and what they can teach us. Through reflection, we can also recognize patterns in our lives. Maybe we repeatedly find ourselves in similar situations, dealing with the same challenges or making the same mistakes. Without reflection, it's easy to miss these patterns and continue on the same path, never fully understanding why things keep playing out the way they do. But when we reflect, we start to see connections between our actions and outcomes, and we gain the ability to make different choices moving forward. We realize that we have the power to break free from unproductive cycles and make changes that align with our values and goals. Reflection also allows us to process our emotions. Life often presents us with difficult situations, setbacks, and challenges. And it's easy to get caught up in the rush of trying to fix things or move past them. But without taking time to reflect, we can end up suppressing our emotions or failing to fully understand how certain experiences have affected us. Reflection gives us permission to sit with our emotions, to acknowledge them, and to gain a deeper understanding of what we need in order to heal or move forward. Another profound aspect of reflection is that it brings clarity. When we're caught in the hustle of life, it can be hard to see the bigger picture. We may become focused on the immediate task at hand or overwhelmed by the noise of our daily lives. Reflection helps us to step back and see things from a new perspective. It allows us to get in touch with our deeper desires, to examine whether we're on the right path, and to assess if we're living in alignment with our core values. It's in these reflective moments that we gain clarity about who we want to become and what we want to achieve. Reflection also strengthens our decision-making abilities. By looking back at past decisions, we can evaluate what worked and what didn't, what led to success and what resulted in failure. This isn't about regrets. It's about learning. Every choice we make, whether good or bad, has something to teach us. By reflecting on our decisions, we start to make wiser, more informed choices in the future. We learn how to listen to our intuition, to trust our instincts, and to consider the long-term consequences of our actions. In the process of reflecting, we also come to appreciate the journey. It's easy to get caught up in the end goal, in the desire to achieve something specific, that we forget to enjoy the steps along the way. Reflection allows us to see the value in every part of the process, to recognize how far we've come. When we reflect, we acknowledge that growth isn't just about reaching a destination. It's about embracing the lessons learned along the way. Reflection is not a passive activity. It's not about simply looking back with nostalgia or regret. It's an active process of introspection, analysis, and growth. It requires vulnerability, openness, and a willingness to face the truth, even when it's uncomfortable. It challenges us to ask hard questions, to confront our shortcomings, and to be honest with ourselves. But in doing so, it gives us the clarity and wisdom we need to move forward in a way that is authentic and aligned with our true purpose. Life has a rhythm, a flow that moves like a current, constantly shifting and evolving. Yet in the rush of our everyday existence, it's easy to forget this natural flow. We become so focused on controlling every aspect of our lives, pushing forward with relentless determination, that we forget to let go and let life unfold as it's meant to. We force things, we rush, and in doing so, we miss the beauty of the process, the unseen patterns that shape our journeys in ways we can't always predict or plan. There is a natural order to life that transcends our understanding. This order isn't rigid. It's fluid and dynamic, much like a river that winds its way through landscapes, carving new paths while adapting to the terrain. When we try to force our own path, we often struggle against the flow, creating resistance. It's in those moments of resistance that we feel frustration, confusion, and a sense of being stuck. But when we allow ourselves to flow with life, to trust in the unfolding of events and the timing of things, we find that life carries us exactly where we need to be. At its core, the natural flow of life is about trust. It's trusting that there is a greater plan, one that we may not always see or understand, but one that is unfolding in its own perfect timing. We don't have to know every detail, nor do we need to be in control of everything. When we let go of the need to micromanage every moment, we free ourselves to experience life in a deeper, more meaningful way. We stop trying to force outcomes and start trusting that when the time is right, everything we need will arrive. Whether that's a new opportunity, a relationship, or a moment of insight. This flow isn't about passivity. It's about alignment. It's about finding the balance between action and surrender. It's about understanding that we are part of something much bigger than ourselves. We are not isolated in our struggles or our achievements. We are connected to the people, the circumstances, and the energies that make up the fabric of life. When we align ourselves with this natural flow, we are able to move through life with greater ease, rather than pushing against the current, exhausting ourselves in the process. One of the greatest challenges to embracing the flow of life is our fear of uncertainty. We crave stability and predictability because it gives us a sense of security. But life is inherently unpredictable. The more we try to control every detail, the more we become attached to specific outcomes, and the more we trap ourselves in fear. Fear of things not turning out as we hoped, fear of failure, fear of the unknown. But the truth is, it's in the unknown that we often discover the most incredible opportunities and growth. When we release the need to control the unknown, we open ourselves up to possibilities that we never could have planned for. The beauty of life lies in its unpredictability, in the surprises that come when we least expect them. When we allow ourselves to flow with life, we also learn to embrace the ebb and flow of emotions. Life isn't a constant state of happiness or success. There are highs and there are lows. There are moments of joy and there are moments of grief or disappointment. The flow of life includes all of these. When we accept that, instead of resisting or trying to avoid pain, we begin to experience life more fully. The lows teach us resilience, patience, and compassion, while the highs show us what we are capable of and what we truly value. It's the contrast between these moments that deepens our understanding of life's beauty. We also experience the flow of life through our relationships and connections. People come into our lives for reasons we may not always understand at the time. Sometimes they stay for a season, and sometimes they stay for a lifetime. We may meet people who challenge us, who help us grow, or who simply bring joy into our lives. But just as we can't force certain things to happen in our personal journey, we can't force relationships to work when they're not meant to. Trusting the flow of life means allowing connections to form and evolve naturally, without pushing, without holding on too tightly. When we let go, when we trust that people will come and go in their own time, we create space for the right relationships to grow. The natural flow of life also teaches us the importance of patience. We live in an age where we want everything immediately, instant results, instant gratification, and a constant need to keep up. But life doesn't always work that way. Some things take time to unfold, and we have to trust that everything happens at the right moment. When we allow ourselves to move at life's pace, we find that things tend to come to us exactly when we're ready for them. Not a moment sooner, not a moment later. It's in this waiting, in this patience, that we learn to trust the process and to appreciate the journey rather than just the destination.